Tonight, hockey heartbreak. Canada's Stanley Cup dreams dashed again.
Shooting scores!
The Oilers fall short in Game 7.
The Panthers are Stanley Cup champions!
The gut-wrenching finale after a heroic comeback story. From Alberta to Florida, Oilers faithful feel the sting of coming so close. Plus, a critical test for the Prime Minister in what has been a Liberal stronghold.
They're afraid of losing the vote.
Also, another royal health scare. Princess Anne hospitalized.
Potentially suffering from a concussion.
And tragedy in paradise.
As much as people loved him, he loved everyone else more.
Hawaii mourns a local hero killed in a rare shark attack.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina reporting tonight from Edmonton.
Good evening, everyone. Canada's hockey hopes and dreams were resting on one team tonight, the Edmonton Oilers, who fought hard but failed to complete their epic comeback and break the country's Stanley Cup drought in a dramatic Game 7.
The corner in front, Bobrovsky, and it rolled just wide as Kulikov came out to.
Florida scored the game-winning goal in the second period to make it 2-1 and held on to win their first ever Stanley Cup since joining the league in 1993. That same year, the Habs won the Cup, the last Canadian team to win. But all was not lost for Edmonton. Star Connor McDavid won the Conn Smythe Trophy for the most valuable player in the playoffs. We have extensive coverage of all the action with reporters on the ground in Sunrise, Florida, and here in Edmonton, where we find CTV's Matt Woodman with some loyal fans. Matt, loyal, but certainly disappointed and heartbroken tonight, I would imagine.
Well, Omar, this was the game fans here in Edmonton wanted, but it certainly was not the result they wanted. As the final few minutes were winding down, you could sense that this crowd was just waiting to erupt here in the Moss Pit, the heart of Ice District, just outside of Rogers Place, where thousands filled in here to watch the game tonight. Thousands more were watching on the Jumbotron inside Rogers Place this evening. You could sense the crowd wishing, hoping, praying for a game-tying goal here late in the third period. It never did come, and now the Florida Panthers have their very first Stanley Cup in franchise history. For the Oilers, it would have been their sixth. We were talking to fans as they were coming into the Moss Pit here today, filled with optimism and confidence, feeling pretty good after the team had come back from down 0-3 in the Stanley Cup Finals series to force a decisive Game 7 in Sunrise, Florida. Like I said, not the result Oilers fans were hoping for tonight, but this playoff run, this 9 weeks, has just been an incredible start to the summer here in Edmonton. They haven't experienced anything like this here in the city since 2006 when the Edmonton Oilers went to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Carolina Hurricanes. And I can tell you, fans weren't really thinking or expecting a loss tonight, but we were speaking with many fans who were saying they're very proud of what this team has accomplished, the way they managed to come back, the way they defeated the LA Kings in the first round, the rivals, the Vancouver Canucks, and then the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Final to reach the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in 18 years. So unfortunately, there will not be a cup parade through the streets of downtown Edmonton and Ice District this year, but fans very proud of what this team has accomplished, and so far very well behaved here in the Moss Pit after watching a tough loss in Game 7 this evening.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. And inside the arena, where thousands of fans were watching on a screen, is CTV's Kathy Lee. Kathy, not the result that fans were wanting. How is the city preparing for this moment and this day?
Omar, you're right. Definitely not the result that the Oilers fans were hoping for. You could feel the air just kind of leave the building. In fact, it's like a balloon deflated. There are some fans here still sticking around. I think a lot of them are in shock and very saddened. The city is managing the crowds and making sure that people's safety is top of mind. We all remember what happened in 2006. There were riots, and of course, police do not want the same thing to happen. So all they would say to us is they're managing the crowd and ensuring that people are safe as they go out, and they're just really hoping that no matter what the outcome was today, and of course it's a loss, that people still continue to, if they want to go out and be on the streets, just do it in a peaceful manner and make sure that everybody goes home safely. Omar.
What a tremendous run they had, Kathy Lee. side of the arena. Thank you so much. Well, Edmonton fans weren't just cheering their team here in Canada. Many traveled to Sunrise, Florida, which is where we find CTV's Paul Hollingsworth. And Paul, I would imagine a far different atmosphere where you are tonight.
Absolutely, Omar. What a difference a few hours makes in a major way now. Go back 3 hours from now, we saw several thousand Edmonton fans basically storm the arena. They took over the fan zone outside of the arena. They were loud, they were large in numbers, they were fired up, they sensed something historic. Now behind me, everyone's inside the rink celebrating a Stanley Cup championship. See a trickle of Oilers fans leaving the building. A quiet trickle of Oilers fans. They came a long way. They cheered hard. They sensed something special was happening. In the final analysis, something very special happened. They were down 3-0. They tied the series. That by itself was historic, but a disappointing outcome for these fans. We saw them elevate their energy game by game through this series, escalating to this Game 7 crescendo. It all sort of changes now. A disappointed fan base, strong in numbers, but very heartbroken as the series ends. And a lot of people, Omar, who traveled a long way to hopefully watch the Stanley Cup Championship, leave this arena tonight disappointed and head back to Canada knowing that the drought continues because, as you mentioned off the top of the show, it's been 31 years since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. That string of losses for our country's teams continues after this loss.
A long time, and they came oh so close. Paul Hollingsworth in Sunrise, Florida tonight. Thank you so much. And earlier we spoke to some diehard fans who couldn't make the trip to cheer on the Oilers.
My father used to work for Peter Pocklington, actually, funny story.
In Sydney, Nova Scotia, Derek DeMone's Oilers shrine has nearly 40 years of team memorabilia he started collecting as a kid, but his dad would bring souvenirs home from Edmonton. This Ottawa chef watching the game at home.
I need to be alone because I have to. If I have to smash everything after, I need to do it in my own house.
And if they win?
Still at home, and my wife can see me as a maniac screaming all alone.
And Newmarket, Ontario is all decked out and rooting for a hometown hero.
It's just so exciting because it's very personal for everybody.
Edmonton coming back from 3-0, and our own hometown boy leading the way, of course. Best player in the world.
At his former elementary school, Connor McDavid's teachers knew he was destined for greatness.
Everything he did was very intense. He had this ability to block out all distractions and focus on the task at hand.
And that focus has helped McDavid lead the Oilers towards a comeback in the Stanley Cup Finals. McDavid was one of the stars of this series. Earlier this evening, I spoke with TSN's Salim Balji about what makes the Oilers captain such a great player on the ice and off.
Well, Omar, first of all, offensively, we know what he's going to do. He's going to put up offensive numbers, but defensively, it's his play away from the puck, how he back checks, and how he blocks shots. That really has rubbed off on his teammates, and then his leadership and how they want to win for him. He's been vocal, he's been aggressive behind the scenes, which is a little bit out of his comfort zone, but he's done a great job. And players to a man say that they want to win for number 97, and it's not just because of the big point totals.
He's shown so much leadership and confidence in his team. Win or lose, Salim, tonight, the victory is really in the comeback of this team, right?
It really is, Omar, and if you look at the resiliency, the fact they haven't said no. They had a different coach a few months ago. They make a gutsy call to change him, bring in Chris Knobloch. They changed up their systems. They got depth players to buy in, accept roles that maybe they wouldn't have had on other teams. And as a result, it's an impressive roster up and down. And regardless of if you're a reporter, if you're a doctor, a hockey player, you can take lessons from this Oilers squad. And now we wait to see if they can close the deal.
Thank you so much, Salim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Omar.
The Stanley Cup last came to Canada when the Liberals won the riding of St. Paul's in Toronto. They've held it for more than 3 decades, and today a crucial test to see if they can keep it. CTV's chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos joins me now. Vashi, this by-election was seen as a referendum on Justin Trudeau. What was the outcome and what's the impact?
Well, believe it or not, Omar, a number of hours, about 2.5 hours after the polls closed, we still don't have a final outcome or a final verdict from the riding. The votes are taking a long time to come in because the ballot elections, Canada says, was so incredibly long. There are 84 or 80 plus people who put their names forward, many of whom as independents, and it's just taking them a long time to tabulate. What we do know, however, so far with about 30% of the polls reporting is that The Liberal candidate, Leslie Church, the former chief of staff for Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, is out in front by about a 10-point margin. The Conservative candidate is currently placed in second, but a full 10 points behind. The big question had been going into this was whether or not the riding would reflect national polls, which have, of course, the Tories about 15 to 20 points ahead of the Liberals. Again, nationally, this is a Liberal stronghold, as you indicated, so the chances were slim. It does not look like the riding will flip to the Conservatives, but they have narrowed the margin. My guess is that will prompt a number of questions going forward about the health of the Liberals overall across the country. But they're also breathing a sigh of relief that this riding, so far at least, looks like it will not flip tonight. Omar?
All right, Vashi, thanks so much. In other news, Ottawa is considering a surtax on electric vehicle imports from China and has launched a consultation period to decide whether or not to proceed. The move would follow similar steps taken by the U.S. and the EU, but could spark retaliation from China. CTV's Michael Couture reports.
Chinese production of cheap electric vehicles is far outpacing domestic demand. Countries like Canada accuse China of a state-directed program to flood global markets.
That overcapacity is created with very problematic labor standards, very problematic environmental standards.
So Canada is taking the next 30 days to consider slapping tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. The EU is set to impose a surtax of 38% on July 4th, while the U.S. is planning to impose 100% tariffs on those same vehicles.
60% of the imports, vehicle imports into this country are American. And so I think we need to show them that if they protect the front door, we'll protect the back door.
In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson from the Chinese embassy said if Canada imposes tariffs, China will take resolute actions to defend its legitimate rights and interests. In 2019, China blocked Canadian canola, soybeans, and pork following the arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou.
Let's recall that the exports are still very important for China. They get 20% of their GDP from exports.
Cheaper EVs could help Canada hit its goal of phasing out gas-powered vehicles by the year 2035. Canada is hoping for a homegrown solution as the federal and provincial governments invest tens of billions of dollars in the EV supply chain.
Climate action actually means even more great-paying jobs for Canada.
Making Chinese electric vehicles more expensive with tariffs could also help the government get a return on its investment, even as global demand for EVs has stalled. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. The number of children missing in the chaos of the conflict in Gaza has crossed a staggering 20,000, according to a humanitarian aid group.
Children have made up about 40% of all deaths in Gaza.
Save the Children says the young victims are likely trapped in the rubble, and an unknown number may be buried in unmarked graves or detained by the Israeli military. Also tonight, new video from October 7th shows Hamas kidnapping 3 men from the Nova Music Festival. It was shared by families of the Israeli hostages, desperate for their government to accept a ceasefire deal. The royal family is dealing with another health matter tonight. Princess Anne has suffered a minor head injury. CTV's Sarah Plowman on what may have caused it and what it means for her upcoming visit to Canada.
She's the hardest working royal, but Princess Anne is now off work, hospitalized with a concussion reportedly caused by a horse while she was walking on her country estate yesterday. Buckingham Palace says she's expected to make a full and swift recovery.
The injury that she has sustained, this concussion, is consistent with an impact from a horse's head or leg.
Princess Anne is an accomplished equestrian, an Olympian, and the Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. She was set to fly to St. John's, where a crowd will gather on July 1st as a repatriated unknown soldier is entombed at Newfoundland's National War Memorial, its 100-year anniversary. Her trip is canceled.
We were honored, that she would be here. But naturally, accidents happen. And all we can do now is wish her well in her recovery.
It's been a difficult year for the royal family as both the King and the Princess of Wales battle cancer. The king has returned to public duties.
It has taken me time to recover from major surgery.
Princess Kate appeared at the king's birthday recently, but is still recovering. In their absence, Princess Anne shouldered the workload.
Princess will, do everything she can to honor this commitment because she is like that. It's going to take a team of horses to keep her from work.
The commemorative ceremony in Newfoundland will go ahead as planned. The president of the Legion there tells me they're having a meeting tomorrow and will likely talk about how to fill the gaps. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Coming up, a deadly shark attack.
As much as people loved him, he loved everyone else more.
A lifeguard is killed off the Hawaiian coast. A world-renowned surfer known for riding some of the most dangerous waves has died in a rare shark attack off the coast of Hawaii. CTV's Joy Malbin on the shock and heartbreak as friends and family remember a hometown hero.
Get to work.
You might recognize Tamayo Perry from TV.
What's up, Tamayo?
Hey, how's it, girls?
Or the big screen, playing a larger-than-life buccaneer in the 4th Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But he was more than a professional actor and stuntman. The 49-year-old was a champion surfer and beloved longtime lifeguard in Hawaii. Officials say he died following a shark attack on the North Shore in Oahu. Emergency crews were called to retrieve his body Sunday afternoon. Officials say he had suffered multiple shark bites, warning surfers to exercise caution.
Tamayo's personality was infectious, and as much as people loved him, he loved everyone else more.
Perry had been surfing professionally for over a decade, known as one of the greatest in the world, tributes pouring in, highlighting his love for the sport and his adventurous spirit. And while scientists tell us that shark attacks on humans are rare, close encounters have made for some scary summer headlines. Worldwide, there were 69 unprovoked shark attacks in 2023. 10 were fatal. Honolulu's mayor called Perry's death a tragic loss for the community.
Tamayo was a legendary waterman and highly respected, grew up right over here, and just a great member of our ocean safety team.
Perry is the second victim of a shark attack in Hawaii this year and the 9th fatality since it began keeping records in 1995. He leaves behind a wife and countless friends. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Still ahead. A crippling cyber attack slows down car dealers. Thousands of car dealers across Canada and the U.S. have been forced to revert to pen and paper after an American company that provides software used to manage everything from sales to service was hit by a massive cyber attack. CTV's Heather Wright has more on the fallout.
Thousands of car dealers across Canada and the United States have been forced to revert to pen and paper after CDK Global, an American company that provides software used to manage everything from sales to service, was hit by a massive cyber attack.
The system basically records any and all transactions at a dealership. A sale of a vehicle, new or used, trade-in of a vehicle, a service appointment, a part sale, a quote.
It has been really, really difficult.
JP Kovac has 2 dealerships, both of which use CDK. He says the attack has impacted almost every part of the business.
Just have patience with, the people who are working on the front line. They're doing the best they can, and it's quite a challenging time.
On Wednesday, CDK experienced back-to-back cyber attacks and had to shut down all of its systems. The company has called the attack a ransom event, though it won't say if it has paid any money to regain control. For those dealers impacted, they say this underscores the importance of cybersecurity.
And everybody grumbles, why do I have to such a long password? Why is it going to take so much time? I can't remember this. But it's just proof again why we have to be super diligent, because there are very sophisticated criminals out there holding people for ransom.
Experts say companies should also be conducting drills to ensure they can keep functioning in the event of a cyber attack.
Do you have the right business continuity processes in place, and how quickly can you get back up and running? Otherwise, the consequences is that you're going to be completely shut down and not able to do anything.
Well, CDK has not provided a timeline in terms of when things might be back up and running. The company says it is hopeful it could be as quickly as a matter of days. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
After the break, the storied comeback on the road to the Stanley Cup Final. Well, a tough start to the season and a tough finish for the finals for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. CTV's David Owasik takes a look back at the long, winding road.
Oilers head coach Jay Woodcroft was fired. The team's record, 9 losses, 3 wins, 1 tie. At its worst, the oil skid hit bottom, then sat for a time in 31st place out of 32 teams. The replacement, Chris Knobloch, the man with no NHL head coaching experience. Things changed, and quickly. Within November, the team was already on an 8-game winning streak. December was even better. The Oilers broke the franchise record for consecutive wins, then set their sights on the all-time title. They got as close as possible, registering 16 straight victories. And other big numbers came for individuals. By late March, Zach Hyman made it a 50-goal season. In mid-April, Connor McDavid became the 4th player ever to post 100 assists. Both continued to dominate in the playoffs. For the 3rd year in a row, the Oilers dispatched the LA Kings, winning in 5 games. Then round 2, the Vancouver Canucks test the Oilers with success, getting ahead in the series and getting Stuart Skinner out of the net for 2 games. The Canucks dominate the Oilers in regular season play, but then watched Edmonton respond, backs against the wall, and down 3 games to 2, Edmonton pushes it to 7 and sends Vancouver packing. Dallas was next in the Western Conference Final. The Oilers' special teams were on fire. Power play goals dominating games, penalty kills shutting down the Stars. Edmonton finished the favored Stars in 6. And it brings us to the final. Early, it looked as though it could end in a sweep. The Oilers unable to solve the Florida Panthers' Sergei Bobrovsky, dropping 3 in a row and then figuring it out in Game 4 with an 8-1 drubbing. And then they did it again in Florida. McDavid leading the charge both times, and then, as he stated, dragging the Panthers back to Alberta to beat them again in Game 6, setting the stage for a history-making Game 7 in a year that started near the bottom and ends with a cup run for the ages. David Owasik, CTV News, Edmonton.
What a journey. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.
The winner of the Conn Smythe is Connor McDavid.